Barbecue. Barbecue, barbecue, barbecue. Few words elicit more excitement from Texans than barbecue. And who can blame us? Barbecue is great. Not to pick a fight with my Memphis or Carolinian brothers, but I've tried your barbecue and I prefer Texas-style barbecue. Of course, taste is subjective, so let me subject you to my tastes by saying that a thick slice of tender Texas brisket beats any dry-ass Memphis rib or stanky vinegary Carolina pulled pork. That's right, you heard me. Having said that, not all brisket is created equal, and in my quest to search for the perfect brisket, one name keeps popping up: Goldee's. It's become quite the social media spot and darling of print and video journalism, and has been covered by big YouTube channels, influencers, and traditional media outlets. You might think this flood of coverage might have made cynical old me skeptical of Goldee's, but I'm always down to try something, at least once. Having lived in the DFW area since the 90s, and priding myself in knowing the eating spots in town, I'm surprised I hadn't heard about Goldee's until about a year ago. Even then, I never made my way down there, mostly because their hours of operation are brief. But if they truly are as good as people say they are, it should be worth the wait. Goldee's is actually very near my favorite outdoor range, a place that I've been going to for nearly 15 years, Alpine. With that in mind, I decided to finally brave the lines and see what all the fuss was about. The first thing I should point out is that the line is going to be very long, really long. If you want to be seated early, you should expect to show up an hour or two before opening. The second thing I should point out is that you're going to be spending a lot of your time waiting outside, which for 80% of the year in North Texas is going to be hot, very hot. But you know what they say, if you want to eat the meat, you have to brave the heat and the sleet to get a seat. Speaking of seats, Goldee's provides patrons with folding chairs so you can rest your legs while you wait to get inside. My advice, take the seat and bring a hat to keep the sun off your head. They also provide you with water and sometimes beer to make the waiting more tolerable. I would be careful about drinking too much water though, as it could fill you up and worse, send you to one of the porta potties that they conveniently place on the edge of the parking lot. The parking space is pretty generous and I didn't have a hard time finding a spot, even though I showed up about 30 minutes after opening. Once inside, you might be surprised at the rather small interior of the restaurant. Still, I didn't have a hard time finding a seat, I believe for two reasons. One, the takeout line is actually the same as the dine-in line, meaning that a lot of people waiting in line just leave after picking up their food. And secondly, like I said, I came after opening, so I was actually towards the end of the line, and I didn't start eating until afternoon. I believe Goldee's is in the process of making a line just for takeout customers, so we'll see what happens there. The staff is courteous and engages in small talk with their customers, asking you where you're from, how you heard of them, how you're enjoying your time in Texas, etc. I include the last part because I didn't mean to eavesdrop, but hey, like I said, the interior is small, and virtually everybody ahead of me mentioned that they were from out of town, out of the state, and in a few cases, from another country. I think I may have been one of the few locals in that part of the line. Looks like word does get around. The prices are competitive with other local barbecue joints here in North Texas. There's a pretty typical selection of meats to choose from. Brisket, of course, ribs, both pork and beef, pork belly, and sausage, which they make themselves. Sides are pretty standard: potato salad, coleslaw, beans, grits, and hash. No mashed potatoes or mac, if you're into that. I know that'll probably come as a disappointment for some of y'all. Keep in mind that if you come late, Goldee's might run out of items on the menu. Like I had stated earlier, I arrived half an hour after opening, and they ran out of beef ribs by the time I got up to order. I ordered brisket, pork belly, and their special sausage. For sides, I got slaw, beans, and hash. I didn't have a hard time finding a seat, since a lot of people in line simply picked up. Before we get into the food review, I want to contrast Goldee's with my normal barbecue stop, Hutchins, more specifically the one in Trophy Club, not the one in Frisco or McKinney. There's a whole weird family story behind Hutchins barbecue that I won't get into, but the one in Trophy Club is a lot closer to where I live, so it's my go-to place. So how does Goldee's compare to my regular haunt? And do I think it's worth the extra drive and wait for Goldee's? Well, here's a breakdown. First, we gotta start with the brisket. It's pretty much the main reason I wanted to try Goldee's. It was ranked #1 in D Magazine, a local magazine for all things DFW, and ranked #1 by Joshua Wiseman as well. So, does it live up to the hype? Well, kind of. It's good. Very good, actually. I think it's better than the brisket I get at Hutchins. It's fork tender, nice thick bark, and a good amount of salt. Although, I've heard some say it's too salty. Regardless, I thought it was some of the best brisket I've ever had. But is it driving an extra 20 minutes and waiting about 2 hours good? I'd have to think about that. I mean, I love a good brisket, but I'd rather eat brisket than become brisket roasting in the hot sun. How about the other meats? First, the pork belly. Honestly, a little disappointing. It wasn't bad by any means, but compared to Hutchins' pork belly, it was a clear loser. This one menu item, I wouldn't reconsider ordering. So, how about the sausage? Again, a little disappointing. Like the pork belly, not bad, and by sausage standards, better than your average sausage. Interestingly, this sausage had a rather loose texture with large chunks of meat inside a snappy casing. Their special sausage also had a good bit of spice flavor, but was otherwise a little boring. Goldee's honey mustard sauce added a nice bit of kick to the sausage. Now for the sides. Here's where I was a little let down. Look, I know tastes are entirely subjective, and we get used to what we normally eat. But in almost every review I saw of Goldee's, sides were ranked high. I guess it's just me because I don't see it. The slaw was interesting, but not good in my opinion. I would much rather have Hutchins' coleslaw. The beans were also a surprise, in that, well, they were thick, real thick. I mean, it was basically chili. Not saying I dislike chili, but if I were to hand you a cup of Goldee's beans, you would tell me it was chili with beans. Actually, some of you may like that. It just surprised me is all. Finally, the hash with rice. This one wasn't bad. I'm not sure what to make of it. The hash itself was a decent taste, and the rice was just, well, rice. I should have tried the potato salad instead. Oh well, maybe another time. All in all, the sides were not nearly as good as I thought it would be, considering others raved about them. Goldee's also gives you bread, which they make themselves. The bread is good. I mean, it's bread. Bread is obviously better fresh, and it tasted pretty fresh baked to me. So, thumbs up. Although my bread was, pretty airy. Finally, when the meat sweats start getting too heavy, Goldee's provides you with to-go containers, so you can continue the party at home. This is a nice touch, and much appreciated. Actually, when you think about it, Goldee's does a good job with their small space and limited staff. Like I had stated before, they provide you with water, chairs, and even fans to make waiting a little more bearable. Then they provide you with to-go boxes, so you can quickly take your leftovers and go. I appreciate the small touches, which makes the experience a little smoother. So, conclusions. Well, I definitely think if you're a foodie or barbecue aficionado, then Goldee should be on your list. The brisket is really good. Everything else was good to okay. The issue here is your tolerance for waiting, particularly in the hot summer months when the temperature gets into triple digits and the sun scalds your skin. To that I would say, bring a hat, a cold drink, a cooling towel, an electric fan, and a battery bank to charge your phone. Seriously, I know I'm making it sound like a slog, but it's better to be prepared than not. And there's nothing fun about standing in line. Trust me. If you have nothing to do, or have the equipment to make the wait bearable, the 2 hours will seem twice as long. So that's it. That's my take on Goldee's. Try it out. It's worth it for the brisket alone, in my opinion. And if you live in the region and have your own barbecue or any other food recommendations, let me know. I'm down to try almost any food. Seriously, I'll eat almost anything. Well, I've yet to find a good Indian restaurant around here, but that's a story for another time. Thanks for watching, guys, and I hope to see you in my next video.